Your work will be remembered as one of the greatest moments of this planet.
Welcome, Marvelous Gang, it's Severance time, and today we're taking a walk through Lumen Industries, the giant corporation that houses an elite cult which desires to seize every mind on Earth. Lumen, backed by its cultist CEOs, has pioneered a form of mind control that allows a person to sever their identity, such that the guy that goes to sleep at night has no connection to the guy that goes to work in the morning. A distorted concept that is brought to life with the baffling artistic genius of the show's creators that hooks you from the first watch. But given Lumen Industries' ultra-shady business of chipping people and controlling their memories, why would this company be allowed to thrive? What exactly goes on inside the closed doors of Lumen? And how do they do their dirty work? Let us get into everything about Lumen Industries, the evil organization in Severance. Real quick before we go on, if you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. It's a small click for you, but it means a lot to us. Thank you. Lumen Industries, a widespread evil. Lumen Industries is a multinational biotech company headed by Jame Eagan, with its headquarters at the fictitious city of Kier. Lumen also dabbles in other businesses such as drugs, medical equipment, and personal care products. The Severance procedure, which plants a chip inside a person's brain that cuts off their consciousness from their memory, was the brainchild of this company. Lumen proudly flaunts this controversial procedure as the ultimate way to achieve a work-life balance, or to manage pain and trauma, from 9 a.m. to a little past 5 p.m. A severed person has no memory of their life outside of the office, and after these hours, they have no memory of their life in the office. They basically become two separate people, an innie and an outie. In Severance, we're looking at a world where Lumen Industries have spread over much of the world. This dodgy company operates in 206 countries. Wait a minute, isn't that more countries than we've got right now? Well, I suppose the world branches out a little more in the future, as opposed to coming together. Or Severance is based on a different timeline that exists in a fully fictitious world, unlike the Earth we know today. There's much mystery about when and where in Severance, given that the company is headquartered in a certain town of Kier, the state of abbreviation of which reads PE, which is obviously a fully made-up thing. Anyway, Lumen is an extensive corporation with immense political pull. This is probably the reason all the protests against it never yielded anything. A lot of people find its work abhorrent, shout out to the door guy in episode 2, but Lumen is too big a monster to be tamed by the voices of the common folks. Lumen's presence in so many nations implies that the Severance procedure is being used on people all over the globe. Lumen has definitely cultivated relationships with the governments in many countries beyond the American shores. However, indoctrinating its employees into the Kier cult may just be a US thing, because other nations will probably not be cool with their people being pushed into an American cult. That's just my theory on that. Lumen was founded by Kier Eagan in 1865. Since then, the company has always had an Eagan in charge. With 8 CEOs in all, the 8th being Jame Eagan, the baton is to be passed down to Helena Eagan, Jame's daughter. If Lumen manages to iron out the recent troubles they've had with her innie, Helly, Lumen uses every trick in the book to mind control people. First off, there's the Severance procedure by which they chip people into becoming a brand new person for most of their waking hours. In these hours, they're assigned tasks, given rewards, and subject to a psychologically maiming punishment, all designed to make them good, subservient little minions in due time. Lumen also uses artwork to affect people's subconscious. There are beautiful paintings portraying Kier and his philosophies that Lumen wishes to embed in the innie's mind, all over the Lumen building. These striking paintings stand out even more because of their contrast to the bland, repetitive aesthetic of the office walls they hang upon. Almost like the paintings symbolize Kier's color within an otherwise weary existence. There's also the grand statue display of the Eagan leaders for the employees to gaze upon. That's honestly creepy as hell. I mean, anyone looking in from the outside would immediately run for the hills seeing that thing. But of all the souls Lumen Industry effectively controls, the Severance series is about 4 dissenters, the innies that went into the outie world, creating a PR nightmare for Lumen. Now, before we get into the details of the Lumen building we see in the show, as well as its functions, we will quickly touch upon the changes we've seen at the Severed floor in Season 2. The newly designed Severed floor. If you've started watching the new season of Severance, you would have surely noticed that the Severed floor has been changed around a bit. While it remains the tightly structured, clinically neat space that it's always been, almost like an extreme satirical version of the modern-day work cubicles and offices, the hallways on the Severed floor have been changed up, and the wellness office is gone. The break room has been redone. There's a new promo for Lumen Industries that everyone watches in the new break room. Mark, Helly, Dylan, and Irving have become the face of the Severance reform, and feature heavily in the promo. And there's There's even a bit with the Mark and Helly cartoons kissing, bang in the middle of the big change message of the promo. It's so weird and so hilarious. I love it. The preposterous humor Dan Erickson, Ben Stiller, and their team is able to sprinkle so masterfully over the show is just gold. Lumen has added some new perks to revive the employees' experience, but they all end up sounding a bit sus, like the playful mirror room, with the severed floor's surgically neat aesthetic, with a shift between dead whiteness and obscure shadows. I reckon the mirror room will be more disturbing than playful. But why did Lumen go to such lengths to design a whole new floor for 4 puny employees anyhow? Well, first off, one of them is not puny. In fact, Helly's Audi is the next in line to head Lumen. Secondly, it's all a part of the damage control. The new floor was mostly designed for Mark. The rest of them are there because Mark was desperate to have them back. Also, Mark, Helly, Irving, and Dylan are now the symbol of Lumen's duplicity. If Lumen can rehabilitate them into becoming happy and satisfied innies again, they will become a showcase of Lumen turning the page and growing. Remember that Jame Eagan may be a dangerous cultist creep, but he surely isn't a rookie, and neither is his board. They need Mark to complete their prime project, Cold Harbor, which involves Casey, who's likely a clone of Mark's late wife, Gemma. By keeping the dissenters as innies in the office, Jame and his board are also exercising the wisdom old: keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Alright, now that we've split open Lumen Industries for who they are, let us get into exactly what they do inside their strange abode. The Lumen Building, inside the clinical maze. Throughout the first season of the series, the viewers were perplexed with what actually goes on inside the Lumen office. What's happening on all the floors there? And why don't the employees just go to other levels more often? For, casual visits, or out of curiosity? Well, Lumen's agenda is so malicious that they can't really have people climbing up and down levels for small chats at the lunch hour and such stuff. Now, while there's still plenty of mystery about many areas of the Lumen Building, we know the main departments that feature in the show. Let us explore what these are and what work they do. For starters, let us look into the rivals off the severed floor, MDR and O&D. Macrodata Refinement, MDR. MDR is the haunt of our favorite white-collared quartet, Mark, Helly, Irving, and Dylan. From 9 to 5, these guys are known as the Refiners. The Refiners play the mysterious number game on their vintage box desktops. We've all seen the green numbers over the Lumen screens, with the Refiners bunching them up and putting them into bins at the bottom of the screen. The Refiners organize the numbers and pop them inside 5 bins, with the goal of filling each bin with the same amount of each number. Stimulating work, right? The numbers give a measure of the Refiners' emotional response to them, which is recorded under Kier's 4 tempers: woe, frolic, dread, and malice. Now, it sounds like a game that might be a bit of light fun to start with, but could quickly become monotonous. But fear not, good Refiners, is what I would imagine the Lumen guys will say to that. They've got all sorts of perks to keep the Refiners going. The high performers get erasers, finger traps, caricatures, even a dance experience, which does not always go well. Remember Dylan getting bugged by Milchick's chicken dance behind his back, then launching at the guy and biting him? That whole scene was so hilarious and intense at the same time. I had to tip my hat to Erickson. There are also newly added perks like the mirror room and the pumpkin grabbing game, the cartoon depiction for which showed Helly's hands tied up behind her back with a black cable. Wow, normalcy is not the severed floor's forte, that's for sure. And who can forget, if a refiner rocks the quarter, he gets the craziest perk ever: a waffle party and a freaky dance show at Kier's make-believe digs that you just have to watch to believe. What exactly does the refiner's work achieve? This is a mystery yet unsolved, but if I had to venture a guess, I would say all the work the severed employees of Lumen do serves the greater goal of institutionalizing them into submitting themselves to Lumen. The number game may be a psychological tool of measuring an employee's state of mind on the temper scale. The whole play well and get rewards thing is to keep the employees busy, but as the process ticks on, the innies become tethered to the structured Lumen life. This could also help Lumen create a species of perfectly obedient employees as a product to sell to other corporates. The possibilities of what Lumen Industries is doing with their mind control chips are endless. Optics and design, O&D. Very little is known about O&D, except that they're the bitter rivals of MDR, or so they say. They're also based on the severed floor. Their rivalry is born off a myth, rather than anything that is currently going on between the two. It's said that at some point in Lumen history, the department has a full-on battle, and one of the departments killed off the other one. It's the most insane story out of all in Lumen, but there are no records about it. No one has any details about who started the battle or why, or who got killed. Aside from some of the paintings depicting this stuff, there doesn't seem seem to be anything on it, so it may well just be a fabricated thing. Irv's old boyfriend, Bert, was in optics and design, but he retired from the gig, leaving Irving in an emotional hole. O&D is a bigger department than MDR, with more people working in it. The innies here are usually shuffling around artwork, putting them on display, storing them, etc. It's strange work, as that has nothing to do at all with optics. O&D hasn't featured in Season 2 yet, but we should get more on these guys as things progress. Now, we've got the place where Lumen openly props up its ugly head.
I'm afraid you still don't mean it.
The break room. The name of the room is misleading. It is not designed to give the employees a break, but instead it is used to break them. This is a punishment room, a dark, cramped room intended to psychologically break down its occupant. So if someone isn't behaving properly, like they're doing things that are considered wrong at Lumen, their supervising staff will send them to the break room. In this room, the employees are shown an absolutely degrading apology script that they must read over and over again until they mean it. They sit in the same spot doing this thing, like on a loop for days if needed. A person will go on repeating the words 1,000 times or more until the supervisor watching them is satisfied that they're truly sorry for their actions. The employee's sincerity is checked on by a machine, which looks like a lie detector. If the reading isn't good, they have to go again, until they're mentally and physically exhausted. They also feel psychologically deprecated after this experience, because the punishment shows them that their views don't matter, that they're not free to think and act the way they feel. Lumen does this to gain a level of control over its employees. I mean, talking psychologically for a second, there's real-life evidence that exposure to something repetitively and intensely will make a person believe false information. This is the tactic that many mainstream media outlets are infamous for, and this appears to be the idea behind the break room reading. Mr. Milchick oversees the procedure for the severed floor, and oh man, is he a cold piece of work or what? Helly's session in the break room was the most disturbing moment of the show yet. She started off sneering and generally cocky, but ended being a teary-eyed, drained-out mess after 172 reads. Goat wrangling. Goat wrangling is probably a 15 on the weirdness scale of 1 to 10. It was first shown in an isolated room, where a man is tending to cute little baby goats. The room has a pile of hay in one corner for the goats to snuggle in. The man looks just like any other suited Lumen employee, but he was real touchy about the goats. He seems very attached to all the hungry little ones he's seen bottle feeding. In the Season 2 promo, we get to see a completely different person in charge of the goat wrangling, in a much larger office with a green meadow for the goats. This time, it's a disheveled-looking Gwendolyn Christie from Game of Thrones fame doing the goat tending. She looks even more on the edge with her baby goat duty than the last guy, and I can't wait to see what eccentric craziness she brings to the show. There's a painting we see in the office in which Kerr is about to flog a goat in a robe, a representation of Kier taming the tempers. Now, within the Kier cult, these baby goats might be reared at the Lumen building for some sort of ritualistic sacrifice. This would also explain why the guy caring for them bugs out when he sees Mark and Helly. He yells out that the goats are not ready yet. It's like he's expecting someone to come and get the goats when they're all grown up, and he thought Mark and Helly were those people. For what it's worth, I hope there's another, less sadistic reason behind the baby goats. When I first saw the suit bottle feeding a bunch of little goats, I literally went, what the hell is going on here? For like the gazillionth time while watching the show. And that's exactly what the scene is meant to do to the audience. This is just one of those utterly twisted parts of the show that feels random at first, but is in fact perfectly placed to add further mystery to Lumen. Perpetuity Wing. Remember those creepy statues I was telling you about earlier on? Well, the Perpetuity Wing is where these towering things proudly belittle their viewers. The Perpetuity Wing is made to display Lumen's long and rich history. It's a place where the employees can discover many facts about the Eagan leadership, with a special focus on Kier Eagan. Irving had once suggested that Helly be taken to the Perpetuity Wing, which might help her find her purpose at Lumen. This is the larger reason behind the Perpetuity Wing, so that employees can understand how big the Lumen legacy is and cultivate pride in being there. The wing has 3 chief exhibits. There's the Hall of CEOs, which has lifelike statues of the 7 former CEOs at Lumen placed on pedestals. Next comes the Lumen Legacy of Joy exhibit. It was a wall full of black and white photographs of smiles. These are supposedly the smiles of people who have been helped or positively impacted by Lumen, and these photos are updated time and again to show how Lumen continues to be an uplifting presence in the world. Last but not least is a life-size replica of Kier Eagan's house. This exhibit has every little detail of Kier's old spot, right down to where he used to keep his slippers. The waffle party perk that the innies get, coupled with the sexual dance act embodiment of the temper, which is the ultimate performance perk, takes place in Kier's bedroom. Wellness. The Wellness Center is supposed to be a place to ease the minds of the severed employees, but things are seldom as simple as they seem up at Lumen. The Wellness Center is actually a way for Lumen to keep track of the innie's innermost thoughts. Lumen is interested in seeing how their chips are performing on different employees, and if any significant bits of outie memories persist within the innie's minds. The Wellness Center, with its large round light shades and big plant, which are there to soothe the innie, I guess, was run by Miss Casey. In a session, Miss Casey would recite some facts from the person's outie life, which is supposed to make them feel nice and quaint, lest you enjoy one fact more than another, cause that's 10 points off your total. Yep, this is no safe space. The deduction is a gentle reminder that a guy may be at a shrink session, but he better not get out of the rules line. Lumen is all about achieving complete control over its workers. The sessions are not exactly private either. Harmony Coble, the floor manager who fell from grace in the last season, used to watch these sessions. She watched Mark's session in which he shows a glimpse of his outie life. His wife Gemma had passed 2 years earlier in an accident where her car smashed into a tree. In the session, Mark sculpted a clay tree, showing that his innie carried some vague connection to the trauma that the event caused him. Administration. The administration department oversees the employees on the severed floor. This department keeps an eye on the employees, their performance, transgressions, and generally how they're coping with the innie life. Previously, Harmony Coble was the floor manager, with Seth Milchick working under her. But Coble got fired, and Milchick was promoted to floor manager. He's now assisted by a young schoolgirl, Miss Wong. Is it a bizarre choice to put a kid in charge of a full-grown staff? Hell nah, it's Severance, guys. It's all about how bizarre it can get, and yet makes sense if you think about it for a minute. The administrators literally spy on everyone to make sure the innies are well within the limits of Lumen's prescribed behavior and work ethic. They also do what's needed to control an employee when they're acting out. The administrators are responsible for managing the break room sessions for the ones that have been bad too. In the office space, the administrators are basically the top of the food chain, which was why Coble was so upset when told about the new innocuous position the board was reinstating her to. She wanted to be in charge of the severed floor, where all the action is. Testing floor. The testing floor is likely where the dead subjects are chipped and revived, most likely as clones. There's a reference in the show to a floor in the Lumen building from which people never leave. I think this is the testing floor. I would assume that this is where Lumen has Miss Casey cooped up. Miss Casey's walk through the narrow hallway to the elevator for the testing floor carries an air of such dismal darkness that I really don't think anything positive would be happening on that floor. As the name suggests, the testing floor is probably used for testing on the severed subjects or people with a new life, like Miss Casey. This floor is going to come into focus in Season 2. Irving's outie had painted many pictures of the elevator leading to the testing floor with a red light atop, and he told Dylan's innie about discovering this when he had breached his outie body. There's something almost sinister about Irving's paintings, which is similar to the visuals of Miss Casey walking up to that elevator. It'll be really interesting to unearth what goes on here as the series progresses. The security room. The security room has the surveillance and emergency systems manning the entirety of the severed floor. The most celebrated moment of Season 1, the innie's uprising, began here, when Dylan got into the room and activated the overtime contingency protocol. Needless to say, this area is off limits to most Lumen staffers. The security room is one of the most important places within the Lumen building, as this room has the equipment and controls that can quickly and drastically alter the severed people's chip functions. The access to the security room requires a certain black keycard, which is only held by a very few personnel, like the head of security, the administrators, and maybe some executives higher up. The overtime contingency can only be activated by 2 people pressing the protocol switches together. This enables an employee's innie to wake up outside the office, in the Audie's world. Dylan got the black card that belonged to Doug Grainer, the last head of security, with which he activated the overtime, awakening Mark, Helly, and Irving in the outside world. Okay, outside of these departments, the Lumen building has plenty of other operational branches that we don't know about. For instance, there's distribution supply, the department that provides all the office supplies on the severed floor, like pens, notepads, things like that. But these departments are never really featured on screen, and only come up in references. They also sound a tad boring to have a whole section on. So unless a super weird, albeit super interesting thing happens in one of these sometime soon, we'll have to skip out on them, at least for now. Marvelous verdict. I can't be the only one who finds the word severed being used for people an excessively creepy thing. But that's the genius of Severance. It's a brilliantly done artistic satire that's an absolute masterclass in creating a mood. Lumen Industries is at the center of this imaginative drama, which makes us question everything from start to finish. Lumen Industries is the lair of villainy in Severance, but even after a whole season, the intrigue about its activities is as fresh as it ever was. Though we've covered just about everything of note at Lumen here, I know the rabbit hole is going to get much deeper this season, and I can't wait to uncover more on Lumen and bring it to you guys, so do keep a lookout for our Severance videos. That'll be all from us on Lumen Industries for today. If you feel like I've missed out on something, pop it down in the comments. I'd love to hear what you've got. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Take care now. Ciao!